First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushua Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash. Yahweh to this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai to this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'Hashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kodash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. In today's video, I wanted to go into how the kingdom of heaven, is a kingdom on the earth. And this video is inspired by the brother Malcolm from the Chicago camp, GMS Chicago. And he started off his recent video literally just saying that how the kingdom of heaven is a kingdom on earth. And, the spirit hit me, go into that because a lot of people don't know that. They hear the kingdom of heaven and they think it's a place, in the skies where there's little white babies floating around and everybody's white and everything's white. That's farther from the truth, okay? When the scriptures talk about the kingdom of heaven, it is a rulership on the earth, which is the Israelites, ruling the earth in righteousness. That's what the kingdom of heaven is. Now, there is a heaven. Everybody goes when you pass away. We all go to the spirit realm. But when it's talking about the kingdom of heaven, it's a kingdom on earth. So when you go into Daniel, the 7th chapter, it gives you a breakdown of the kingdoms that were going to rule the earth. Let's go into Daniel chapter 2. And the blue letter, they did a good job of outlining the kingdoms on here. So actually, it doesn't show. Oh, yeah, it does. So the interpretation, Babylon, the first kingdom. So you had the Assyrian Babylonian Empire. The second was the Medo-Persian Empire. The third was the Greek Empire. And the fourth is the Roman Empire, which right now we are still in the fourth kingdom, which is Rome. America is the reborn Roman Empire. And after that comes the divine kingdom. And that is the kingdom of heaven. And it says, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Right? And when it talks about it's not going to be left to other people, that's because it's only going to be for the Israelites. The Israelites are going to be the ruling class. All you other nations are going to be at the bottom, are going to be our tributaries, right? It talks about that in Zechariah, the 13th chapter, or Zechariah, the 14th, 12, 13, or 14. I believe it's one of those. And it talks about how if they don't come to the Feast of Tabernacles, if they don't come to the high holy days, the Most High is going to eliminate the rain from those kingdoms. Let's actually go ahead and get that just to prove my point. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 16. It says, "And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up, and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." Right? So all these nations are going to have a mandatory, they're going to have an obligation, to keep the commandments. So if they don't come up the first time, no rain. If they don't come up the second time, it says the plague, which goes into some type of disease. So let's keep reading. It says, "But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." Right? Because all these kingdoms we see on the earth are going to be destroyed. That's why when you read in Revelation, it says that he that sat on the horse, Revelation 19 and 11, "And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called faithful and true, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war." Talk about Yahushua. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. Right? So the many crowns on his head is symbolic for him taking down all the kings of the earth. So relating that back to, it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Right? When you go into the prophecy that was told to Daniel, right, the stone was symbolic for Yahushai, right? The stone that broke the iron, brass, clay, silver, and gold, that's Yahushai taking down all these kingdoms. And let's actually read up to get that point. Right, so I'll start at verse 31. It says, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. Oh, what just happened? Right, so it says, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head, so this is the king's dream, okay, the dream he had, which was a prophecy. It said that in his dream, this image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Right, and that is all symbolic for the iron. When you go down, it talks about how, Rome is the kingdom of iron, right? Greece was the kingdom of brass, right? Medo-Persia was the kingdom of, so on. All those metals were symbolic for the kingdoms. But that stone that was cut out without hands was talking about Yahushai. And that stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth, right? Going into the kingdom being established. And when you go into Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, it says it in that exact way, right? That great mountain. Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1, the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Right? So the kingdom being established on earth. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Right? So these other nations are going to come to Jerusalem to learn the law, statutes, and commandments, because they're not going to be like the Israelites. Okay, the Israelites, part of the second covenant, is that we are going to have the law, statutes, and commandments in our inward parts. Right, we're going to have immortal bodies that are programmed with the commandments. Right, so the same way right now you don't have to think about breathing, it's going to be the same thing for the Israelites in that time. We're not going to think about keeping the commandments. It's just going to be natural. Same way you breathe. You don't got to think about it. It says, And he shall judge amongst the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Right, so peace is going to be established. And when we go to Daniel, the 7th chapter, we can reread that same whole scenario in a different way. Start at verse 21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Right, so going into the Israelites ruling, the entire earth. And we jump down to verse 26. It says, "But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him." Right? And who are the saints of the Most High? The Israelites. So this is the kingdom of heaven. The Israelites ruling forever. This earth, the galaxies, and all the planets out there. That's what Yahushua was talking about when he said that in my Father's house are many mansions. Right? He was talking about what we see in the heavens. All those planets and galaxies. Think about why is it that, it's constantly growing. It's the Lord is constantly making more galaxies and planets. And why is that it's always expanding? The reason is because the Israelites are going to be immortal beings. And that is going to be our playground. Okay, an immortal playground for an immortal race. So hopefully this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me his truth. Shalom to your elect. Shalom.